Brian, you recently attended the 2013 Forrester Forum. This year's theme was Boosting Your Customer Experience to the Next Level. Can you talk about this year's theme and why it is so relevant to today's marketplace?
So a lot of companies have been focusing on customer experience for the last several years. Even though it's a relatively new discipline, it's really an extension of transformational business thinking that's been going on really since the days of total quality management back in the 80s. That led us into customer satisfaction, which led us into customer loyalty, and now we're talking about customer experience. It's relevant because the marketplace is so incredibly competitive, right? Very few businesses have the luxury of selling products and services to customers who have few choices. Those things do exist. There are natural monopolies out there that they don't have to worry quite as much about competitive pressure, but for most businesses, customers face an overwhelming array of choices, whether we're talking B2B or B2C. So customer experience is important because it's a differentiating strategy. If we're really thoughtful about designing customer experiences that build the kind of engagement with customers that every business wants, we can create relationships that allow us to have a bond with the customer that is enduring. And so customers will repeat purchase, they'll recommend, they'll become fans. A lot of companies have that as an objective. We want to create sort of raving fans. So in this competitive marketplace, customer experience is a great way, it's a great strategy for companies to use to differentiate their offer from competition. Interestingly, Forrester reported that when they surveyed customer experience professionals, nearly half, I think more than half, said that their company intends to use customer experience as a differentiating strategy. And yet, very few companies are successful in applying that principle to their business. So, for example, if you look at the Forrester customer experience ratings, their CXI, their customer experience index, only 8% of the companies out of, I think, 200 some companies that they evaluated scored in the excellent range. That's a clear indication that most companies have a long way to go in really making customer experience a differentiating strategy, even though that's their objective.
You've published a summary of this year's conference in an ebook. In one of the concepts, you talk about the four-stage customer experience maturity model. Can you describe the stages in this model for us?
Forrester uses a four-stage model for customer experience maturity. Stages are as follows. The first one is repair. Repair is all about problem detection and correction, right? Sort of eliminating bad experiences. That's the focus of repair. The next stage is elevate. This is the stage where we begin to promote customer experience thinking throughout the business, getting more and more departments to think about what they're doing in the context of impact on the customer. It sounds very straightforward, but for large organizations, even that is challenging, right? To get a consistent, uniform way for everyone in the business to be thinking about how what they do has a connection to customer experience. For customer-facing parts of the company, it's usually very intuitive to think this way, but many other parts of an organization, even though what they do is critical to customer experience, don't necessarily think about how they are impacting the customer and what they do. So that's elevate. The third stage is optimize. This is really about moving to a stage of being very intentional in designing experiences that meet customer needs in a more compelling way. So stepping back, for example, take a retail business, thinking about what the actual experience is for a customer when they walk into a retail environment. And are we evoking, for example, the emotions that we want to evoke that will, again, build that kind of bond with customers that we're trying to build and create loyalty. So that's the optimize stage. And the last stage is differentiate. The highest level of maturity is where a company is actually not just designing good experiences or positive experiences, but designing experiences that are branded, that reflect very uniquely on the nature of the brand that they are selling, whether it's products or services or the corporate brand itself. So differentiate requires you to really be very precise, I would say, about customer experience. If you're trying to evoke a particular emotion, as I mentioned a moment ago, designing those emotions in to the way that you interact with customers, to the physical environment that customers are in when they're interacting with you. Think about digital channels. How do I evoke emotions in a digital channel? There are companies that are thinking about these things, but it's a challenging level to reach. So it's really those four stages. It's repair, elevate, optimize, and differentiate.
What do you think companies need to do to move to that stage of differentiating themselves?
Many companies think about this first of all around products, right? How do I build products that are unique, with features that are unique, with packaging that's unique? Those are all important things and obviously are fundamentally sound strategies for creating a differentiation. Customer experience differentiation goes beyond that. It says, think about holistically about the total experience customers have, including their interactions with the product, including the buying experience, shopping part of the experience, for example, in retail. And the way I would think about it is really developing an experience that's branded, that is unique to the brand promise that your company or your brand portfolio has. So for example, if I'm an airline, just give a generic example here, and part of my brand promise is fun in the flying experience. How would I design the customer interaction at each stage of a journey for a customer, from reservation to check-in to arrival at the airport to boarding to in-flight to deplaning to baggage claim? Think about that whole cycle of a journey that a customer goes through with my airline. What can I do at each and every one of those stages to intentionally build in this idea of fun, right? What a lot of companies might do is they might find one or two aspects of that experience where it's sort of easier to build in fun, like think about the in-flight experience. You know, you could, we all will probably think of this airline when I give this example, but some airlines, the flight attendants give the routine announcements in a sort of fun, humorous way, throwing in a joke, being very casual and sort of fun and friendly and upbeat in how they do that. That's great. That is an example of building fun into the in-flight experience. What about check-in? What about baggage claim? What about reservations? Right? There's these other dimensions of the experience. So that's why reaching this differentiation level is so challenging, because it really requires thinking through your brand promise and then looking at all of these individual elements of the experience and really thoughtfully engineering those experiences to bring about or evoke those elements of your brand. So it's a great objective, because once you get there, then not only are your products differentiating you or your services in and of themselves, the entire holistic experience that customers have itself is differentiating, which is a very powerful position to have in the marketplace.
In your opinion, what do companies today need most in their customer experience practice, and where do you see companies asking us for assistance?
The greatest need, I believe, around customer experience is deeper customer knowledge, deeper customer insight. I think a lot of companies, I mean, most companies that are successful do some kind of customer listening, whether it's through formal research, whether it's through monitoring social media or both, whether it's through collecting and gathering input from field, retailers out in the field or salespeople out in the field, whatever, that are interacting with customers and sort of gathering and collecting all that. Most companies are pretty good about that. But again, just sort of taking at face value what customers tell you only gets you so far in understanding those deeper insights. So an example would be something that has been practiced now for quite some time in the customer experience measurement arena, is really using forms of analysis that get at what are the key drivers, what are the essential levers of the experience that customers are having, by which, if you improve them, would make the most difference in affecting that customer's overall experience and their overall attitude toward your business and your brand. One of the things that we do here at CMI that takes that kind of analysis a little bit further is we don't just tell you which things are most important based on our analysis. We try to actually give you a targeted level of performance. So it's both which aspects of the experience are having impact, along with where do I need to be on that performance scale to optimize my level of impact. So a lot of the methods that are out there that companies use to get at these levers sort of stop with, here are the 2 or 3 or 5 things that are most important or most significant to your customers. We certainly need to do that as well, but we go beyond that through our methodology is called targeted impact analysis, to give you an indication of where on that scale you need to be. So the value of that, the power of that, is now not only do I know what I need to work on, I have a metric to tell me how much further I need to go in improving, and I can tell when I'm getting close, right? I know if I'm making progress against that target, not just some sort of amorphous idea about getting better. Now I know how much better I need to be. Another example would be thinking more qualitatively, would be understanding the emotional profile of the customer experience. When your customers purchase from you, when they use your products, what does it feel like to them? We did this type of work for a major, well-known financial services company. And we used a series of immersive techniques with customers during the actual initial phases of their experience with this business. Through that process, what we were able to do is identify, first of all, what are the critical phases of that onboarding experience, sort of break that first, I think it was 10 or 12 weeks of onboarding, break that down into some basic phases and identify within those phases what are the things you really have to get right in order to build a positive brand experience, a positive set of emotions that the customer's feeling that sort of propel them forward into the relationship. So those techniques allowed us to identify those phases, identify the dimensions of each of those phases that are really important, and then, of course, give our client an indication of where they needed to focus most of their improvement effort within those 3 phases. So they got a confirmation of things they were doing very well already from a customer standpoint. They also were able to identify some areas that really need some improvement. We, as an example, we tracked sort of the customer satisfaction level over that first 12-week period and noted that there were some specific spots in that time frame where satisfaction dropped. So we investigated with customers. Well, why is that happening right here at this particular point, week 3? Why is satisfaction dropping in week 3? Well, by focusing on that, we're able to learn what is it that was going on. It had to do with some communication follow-up that the company was doing that they needed to really address. So that was very valuable feedback to them because they now understand something very tactical, right? In the 3rd week of the onboarding experience, we need to change this part of our process. We need to redesign these communications. We need to retrain our reps on how they interact with the customer at that point in time to address this sort of pattern of dissatisfaction that was developing. So but that's the kind of work that we can do for clients. We are very experienced in this sort of immersive methodologies like this that help us get at these deeper insights that, as I said, for this client, can be very, very valuable in improving the experience.
Thank you, Brian, for taking the time to take a closer look at some of the important insights from the Forrester Forum, as well as your take on how to boost your customer experience to the next level.